Est-ce qu'on fait Oh, hi, Romain!
Ah bah évidemment.
Non, ouais, évidemment. Bon, bah. Oh, hi, Romain! So, hi.
Hi Andre.
Hi, Romain. So, today we're gonna be talking about Spore.
Yeah.
Third song from the Amensal Rise. The longest one. The most avant-garde, I would say, for us.
Yeah, the weirdest
the-
one for sure.
The most different one, for sure.
Yeah.
It's also the most, I think, positive sounding one, maybe, on the album. Here in front of me, we have our session. Let's start from the start, no?
Yeah, maybe just a few words about how the song came along as well.
Yep, absolutely.
I think it was the first and for now only time that the song structure and layout was written before anything else.
Okay.
So I have I think I still have this sheet of paper at home with the way I wanted the song to evolve. So it had section names such as prog rock intro and atmospheric verse, and then jazz bit, then chaos, then jazz 2 and stuff like that. So there was very much a movement that was intended to be specific to this song, and then the composition was based on that and not.
So filling in the pre-selected structure.
Yeah,
if you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that was a very different way of working for me, because then the intention and emotions of the song become the most important aspect of it, and not the actual musicality of
Not
each
the
part.
notes, not any gimmick that you.
Yeah, I think that's why it ended up being so drastic in how it evolves and how the transitions are.
Absolutely.
In the end. And musically and technically, it was also one of the most challenging songs for most of the band members, I think,
I'd
because
say so. Yeah.
it's not like the fastest one, it's not like the craziest one section by section, but it's the one that pulled us out of our comfort zone in many ways, because there's like many subgenres that we are not used to play. Harmonically, as you said, it's very complex, so we had to be very mindful of all the note choices and the phrasing and the way each note was played, which was a bigger challenge than for every other song on the album.
Here's what the song sounds like. Here's what the intro to this song sounds like.
Already you can see that there's like over a minute of pure tension harmonically, and the release is only around like the 1 minute mark or something. And also it's I just noticed that during this intro, which is very low key, there's already like the 3 guests playing. So there's some harmonica, some basic piano playing.
So the piano on this part sounds like this. I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was pretty cool. Yeah,
That's a
I
good
think
one.
it was the same approach for Eric with the guitar. Very apprehensive playing and very moody playing.
The
Acoustic
classic guitar is
yeah,
this.
yeah.
That's where this is from. I was always wondering, where does this sound come from?
Beautiful.
It was really cool. So Eric is a classically trained guitar player who's playing mostly electric guitar in metal bands.
Yeah.
But this is one of his strongest suits, is this ability to make the classical guitar can do anything and everything.
Yeah. He already played with us on You Make Me Feel.
Yep.
Doing some very
Very cool
good
stuff.
guitar playing on there.
Amazing stuff on there. Yeah, that one's fun. The drums here, I think on this second half of the intro, if you want, My favorite, and I think the most unusual, kind of impressive part is the drums.
Yeah, and especially how they transition in the first verse. That was a huge challenge because that already, like we're going to talk about this in a second, but the drums during the verses are amazing. I think transitioning from this pure chaos, very tom heavy intro to that very swingy verse was.
Who's Tom Heavy? I only know Tom Petty. No. As you can see, this whole thing also has this weird feeling because it keeps on shifting between basically what it's a 6/4, 4/4, 6/4, 4/4, 6/4, 4/4, eventually into 5/4, 6/4, which also gives it this very push-pully, uneasy thing going on.
Yeah, effects are quite funny as well during this intro.
Let's listen to them. So. I haven't listened to it yet. Let's listen to the harmonica here in the beginning because it's gorgeous. Yeah, so this is Tom. So cool, such a Western feel to it.
Yeah, and it also adds a lot of distortion to those layers, especially in the heavy bits, because that harmonica has a lot of
that growl kind of.
A lot of growl, and even though the notes themselves are not easy to hear in the song context, it adds a lot of density to that section as well.
I think so too. And also, it's to me, it's a color that's very organic. I mean,
woody.
Yeah, exactly. Has a lot of kind of this vocal thing because it's literally played like a singer would sing. So in comparison to all the other layers of effects, which is for example here. All of this stuff kind of sounds a bit
2D, two-dimensional.
Two-dimensional, a bit static.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you add the harmonica, just everything really jumps to a different level, I think. So if we just listen to all of the effects plus harmonica. Just to finish with the harmonica. Harmonica is mainly in this first part in the verse, and there's a little bit in the second verse. And it's been here in the beginning. It's been really built like with layers. And it's kind of and all of it was pretty much improvised, right?
Yeah, that's something as well.
That's
this song.
Cool to say. Yeah.
I'm usually very specific with what's being played in general, whether that's by us as a band or by guests. And for this particular song, apart from a section on the acoustic guitar and the classical guitar that we're going to talk about later, I think, and pretty much everything else was improvised by the guests, and we just had them play takes over take over take, and then just figure out,
edit it up to make sense, and
and also guiding them after each take, saying this sounds cool, maybe we can keep this vibe or stuff like that, which was a very new way and very cool way to work, I think, very spontaneous, which fits the song pretty well.
So so it was really funny because Tom have not been playing harmonica very much. I think when we called him, like, he hasn't been playing it recently. He still had all those skills, and he brought like 30 different harmonicas. All of them were somehow broken. Like
Yeah.
there was each and every one of them had at least one note that wasn't working, or maybe it was a bit off key or something. So it was just a mix and match
Yeah.
of, okay, I can play this
one-
part on this, but then I have to grab this one for this one note.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was funny.
A lot of fun, yeah.
Bien sûr.
Il y a de très chouettes mouvements ici. Hein.
Je pense que ce qu'on devra faire probablement c'est reprendre l'autre harmonica que tu avais pour la première take et faire quelques takes avec juste pour avoir sur l'accord mineur parce que celui-là il tombe beaucoup mieux sur le deuxième accord de la boucle. Mais le reste marche mieux avec celui-là.
Ok. Mais en fait...
Oh non, une corde en moins.
Bah tu vois, c'est comme ça que ça se passe en fait. Ah non, c'est pourquoi. Putain, con.
En même temps, quand on a autant, il y a bien un moment où il y en a un qui tombe. Hein.
Bah ouais, mais ils tombent tous, c'est surtout.
Bah c'est pas grave si t'as autre chose
dans
cette veine-là.
En do, bon, ici j'ai un harmonica en do, mais il est tout pourrave. Genre.
So harmonica is bullet mic, classic, this kind of little microphone that you hold in your hand with the harmonica, and I blow right through it. Which always sounds a bit like this, but works pretty well. And then we have a bit of a room around him. Which is really cool, just kind of open it up and together. Then we go into the verse. And the verse is this.
Was as sudden and pure as blooms of spring, full to
How could I treasure this life sentence when death is an open door? So positive. Such a
What
beautiful
were you saying about this song? Is it the most positive one on the album, right?
It sounds positive, and then you read the lyrics and you just, what?
I think it was very interesting to have a verse that's very much not guitar centric.
Oh yeah.
That was one of the main aspects of this, to have a very dense wall of synths and pads. And it felt a bit flat for a long time, but then we added those effects guitars with swells and delay that really made the part live up, I think.
Really cool. And it kind of serves the same purpose as this harmonica before.
Absolutely.
It's a vibey but very felt vocal-like layer.
Yeah, because when you have a lot of layers that are just VST and synths and stuff like that, it can feel very cold.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to have at least one layer that brings a bit of movement, of actual human movement, performance movement. In a lot of situations, including this one. And I remember, so as I said earlier, we had this. I had this cheat sheet with all the songs sections, and I wanted a very specific mood for this chord progression, and I couldn't find one that fit. And so I just went through the songs that I was listening to at the time and trying to identify which song and which section of which song made me feel the way I wanted to feel with its chord progression.
Cool.
And the one I found almost instantly was In Mazes by Vola. The outro to In Mazes, which is a very bombastic, very dramatic, heavy outro with those big post-metal chords. And this is basically the same chord progression.
Oh, okay.
So that's something I really like to do, is to... I think it pretty much sounds very different to the Vola song, but just identify something in a song that makes me feel the way I want to feel with my own stuff, and just create around that and make it sound completely different eventually.
So we check out the vocals here. So we have, this is the vocals by themselves. If you're okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Your desire was as sudden and pure as blooms of spring, unfaltering. Though our ending is as certain as the fall of leaves, I heard summers are getting longer. I should have known this very.
I love this.
I should have known.
Yeah,
cool.
that's quite high.
That is high. I remember this whole part. I mean, vocals on this song generally were a big challenge in the mixing stage because we were quite happy with the takes. We were very happy. I think with the emotional content of it and like your interpretation, and then fitting it into the whole song without it sounding either too 80s with lots of reverb, and I mean even now it's maybe a bit much. Or make it sound sort of too dry and disconnected from the song was not easy at all. This is kind of a compromise, sort of in between.
To be honest, much of the end product of this song is a compromise.
Yeah. Let's maybe just quickly check out for this part how those layers of the vocals are structured. So we have this little. So that when the vocals come in, they immediately feel uneasy. Because it's so loud in there.
Yeah, it's very loud actually. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even realize it, I think, necessarily. Then we have the first harmony is a super high one.
As blooms of spring,
Then immediately followed by a very low one.
unfaltering.
And together it sounds like this. Oops, here.
And pure as blooms of spring, unfaltering. Though our ending is.
So I think it's a very cool contrast.
Yeah.
Again, going with the whole song, which is all about very big contrasts.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. There's maybe what is cool here. Maybe
Drums and bass, I think.
Okay.
Drums and bass
Oh, yeah.
for this
Yeah,
section.
that's an interesting group,
Very
yeah.
important, yeah.
And it's basically the whole section is built on this.
Yeah. With this
That ride.
that dotted ride groove. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm so happy with what he came up with on this.
Yeah, it's a fun one. We kind of fighting each other the entire time in terms of groove, right?
Yeah. I think they're played in very different ways on bass and drums, and that's also what makes it so interesting in this context.
Absolutely. Like Pablo is almost metronomical, but as we were saying, there's like this hint of swing in there, right? And I'm doing this bounce thing, the tune, bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing,
And you're-
bing, and I'm swinging exaggeratedly.
Yeah, and it almost seems like you're fighting the instrument because there's like those big slides
Yeah.
and those very like string skipping notes, and so there you can hear that there's some mechanical, like some technical thing stopping you from being metronomical as Pablo is.
Also. Je me demande si je fais trop vite le slide.
Je pense que de manière générale, tu peux être un poil plus laid back.
Ouais, c'est un peu. C'est pas évident à jouer le laid back, mais. Roman writes all of it, then we just go over and adapt a bit. But this groove here was definitely written, I think, before the drums.
Yeah, actually, what you're playing on the bass is what the bells are playing on the effects for during the same section, actually. And this was one of the first ideas of the song. So initially, this was meant to be to-tin, 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 but we only kept the higher notes of the bells because the lower ones were lost in the mix anyway. So, but what you're playing is that same idea. So it's one of the main first ideas of the verse, and why it ended up being those succession of 6/4 and 5/4 bars.
Yeah, so this is our verse, and we go into sort of an inter. What is this? I don't know. A part. Oh, I absolutely love this vocal moment here.
It's yeah.
Chills every time. Oh, just the vocals sound like this. So yeah, these are awesome. And this going down thing. And I mean, what about this guy?
So processed and compressed.
I mean, and also kind of this throat. It almost sounds like a throat singer.
It's very auto-tuned, obviously, to have this very solid foundation.
Yeah,
And I
nice.
think it's
clean
essential
notes.
when you have such a dense section, especially with a lot of effects and very like pitch perfect layers, to not have a lot of
Pitch variation.
pitch variation in the vocal harmonies. There can be in the lead
Yep.
take,
So you
but
can
the
feel
harmonies
the
should,
realness of it. Yeah.
should not be. Every harmonic bit in there should sound very deliberate and on point,
Yeah.
so that the release is more satisfying.
We didn't do that on everything on this album.
No.
If anything, actually, we left a bunch of stuff untuned or almost untuned.
usually
or
the harmonies are
pretty raw.
pretty raw, yeah. But in this case, there was so much stuff going on in the effects
Yeah.
that we wanted to have it pretty.
Type of thing. Then we move into the next section of the song, which is this.
Is leading me nowhere, salvage.
Anything here that you would like to share?
I think it was interesting that this first chorus was very menacing and dark, using the same melodies and almost the same lyrics as the second one, which is later on in the song, but that second one is much more empowering and big and grand. That's hardly a chorus in that respect, but like in terms of chord progression, of vocal melody, and it's basically the same thing, so
Let's compare.
yeah.
To hell with chemistry, I'll leave it all to chance.
Fuck it as well in the backing vocal.
Right, yeah.
To hell with chemistry, I'll leave it.
Also very cool percussion thing on the drums.
Oh, yeah,
Tick-it,
it's
tick-it,
great.
tick-it,
It's really fun. Guitar.
Du coup, le truc suivant, c'est une espèce de petit clean crunch à la Porcupine Tree. On peut jouer du lead D là-dessus. Et il y a un doublage disto de la fin du truc Tool. Est-ce qu'on n'utiliserait pas un petit joujou pour ça, genre une voix?
I'll leave it all to chance.
How did you come with what was this something that came early? Like what? How did this happen?
Guitars came first.
Okay.
I wanted it to be very not structured, very chaotic, not riffy, a lot of noise, and then the FX layers were built on top of that, and the
Okay.
bass as well. And it was always intended to be a wall of sounds and noises.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. What does bass do on this? I don't remember. Who even cares? There's so much chorus on this. This is some vocal? If I remember correctly, this was you asked me to let's record a bunch of different screams. You just improvised shit,
Just
and then you were like, okay, just give it that to me, and you send me back a combo of all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this was the track.
You're right. Yeah, that's right.
So and this happened twice on both chaos parts.
Yeah. FX as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they're
Yeah, the effects here
they're
are
insane,
quite
yeah.
ridiculous. Here we go.
And what was really key in that transition with the jazz section was to have some sort of overlay of a residual
brass.
Yeah, to not make it sound as if there was like a very strong rupture between the two that makes it sound like two different songs, which is almost the purpose but not exactly it. And so there's some tail of both the screams and that synth.
This kind of 80s synth. I mean, those, man. What else is fun? Oh yeah, the orchestra that just happens in the middle. I love that on the whole record, orchestra is mostly just slides up or down.
I'd love
in
one
unison.
day to just pay an orchestra to do this kind of stuff.
Oh, man.
It's like you book them for an entire day. They
Just go
use like
crazy,
3
yeah.
or 4 hours to just set up everything, and then you just ask them to do a 3-second rise. Okay, that's good, guys. Perfect.
Thank you. You
Let's
can
go
go home
home.
now. I was really unsure about this when we first started talking about this song. This is the demo. Which was like jazz played by people who don't know how to play, right?
Of course.
Which I think was what you wanted at first.
No.
You just suck at the guitar.
I wanted to have a good musician playing jazz with us on this, which was Frank. Eventually, which saved the part.
Yes, he did.
And
really
also
did.
the big differences are the fact that the demos were recorded mostly in one take for each side and with one guitar. So the intonation is terrible, and it's like pickups for high gain stuff, and nothing is fit for this part. But when Frank added his layers, and also there was a real drum, like an actual
played
performance,
and
and not MIDI drums, I think it made the entire difference. But and also the bass playing, because I recorded the bass on the demo as well, and I not only suck at bass, but I especially suck at making bass tones. But it works pretty well in the end, I think, even though it's not perfect.
Yeah. So drums and bass on this is this. The final guitar is really nice.
Là, tu veux un autre clic. Peut-être un plus lent. Violent. Pourquoi tu utilises Pro Tools?
Je sais pas. C'est une autre question. Bon bah on est coincé avec ce clic là.
Pas grave, pas de soucis,
c'est la vie.
Je vais jouer nerveusement. Est-ce que tu peux me baisser cette batterie de barbare là?
Sound effects here.
Yeah,
really.
no,
There's
no.
just a bit of piano. And
Piano, which is really
funny
nice.
enough, piano is beautiful and it's so simple. Simple. I mean,
Yeah,
just one hand,
yeah, one hand playing.
very
yeah.
simple kind of responses to your
Yeah,
questions.
Can't you hear?
Here, I think the most important part to talk about is the classical guitar, right?
oh yeah. It was a huge challenge to mix it, and again, everything is a compromise
Yeah.
here, but it spans a very wide range of notes and frequencies because this arpeggio is going all over the guitar.
The classical guitar.
classical guitar.
Let's maybe hear it first before we talk about it. So yeah, gorgeous. I mean, lots of stuff going on. So this was something that you wrote.
Yeah, initially
Okay.
I wanted to play it myself on a clean guitar, which
Okay.
was something that I could play on a clean guitar, and it didn't sound as good as what I was hoping for in terms of tone, and so I wanted played eventually on an acoustic guitar, and this is something I couldn't do because I'm not good enough on a classical guitar, and Eric is a master of it, so he played it really well.
If you don't know this thrill on a classical guitar, especially with this control of dynamics, because here it's sort of mezzo piano, is really hard. Like
Yeah.
to get this tight in terms of repetition, that almost sounds like a blender being used.
Yeah, it sounds like a mandolin basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really,
very-
really difficult, man.
Very good player. Eric.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just check what the drums and bass are doing here. Pablo is a master at flipping himself around the groove. Like how he just sort of changes one little thing and then the whole drum track sounds like it's working against the groove and then it's working with the groove and then
Yeah.
and he just flips like that all the time, so it creates so much movement.
And he always knows exactly like where he's at. in
Yeah,
this
what's his
regards.
relationship
Yeah,
to the groove in terms of
Yeah.
am I pushing, am I pulling, am I not only in terms of placement and time, but mostly in terms of accent.
Yeah, phrasing. and
Accent
stuff.
phrasing, yeah.
C'est plus une construction qu'un fil, j'ai l'impression. donc,
Il y a beaucoup de petites choses et il y a beaucoup de détails. Et malheureusement, il y a beaucoup de détails que j'ai pas reportés sur la table. Et donc, je dois me souvenir en même temps de ah oui, c'est quoi que je fais réellement sur la démo et tout. Donc,
Tu veux pas le réécrire vite fait?
Ah non, ça va bêtement être très long en fait.
Comme tu préfères, hein.
Non, faut que ça tourne.
Ok, on y va.
Like,
That's amazing.
I remember
you
those
had to- you had to keep up with that, yeah.
Oh, those were fun.
I was everything you had dreamed of, everything that you needed. I've abandoned you, abandoned what I had, abandoned what I loved.
We have this really strong main story, right? Up until this third part of the bridge.
Abandoned what I loved.
Again, as always, is just building step by step. There's more and more things, more and like we go from this harmony here,
I was everything
kind of in the same octave as the main vocal. There's a little addition to the very low one.
dreamed of, everything that you needed.
Yep, which is then contrasted with the very high one right after.
I've abandoned you, abandoned what I had, abandoned what I loved.
And here we had this idea of, okay, so let's split now the main vocal from the center, where it was telling the story, and now let's have two main vocals.
We're smart enough to read between the lines and lost enough to believe what we find. And why would we find our way when death is an open door?
I think this opening up thing where we go into stereo mode serves two very cool purposes. It's the part keeps building up in terms of intensity and also in terms of notes. It goes higher and higher, and at this point it goes down slightly, and it helps not make the entire section go down. It's just like a
Yeah, it's a little, yeah, it's a little
like a
part in
bubble.
brackets, right? So like it's like, oh, by the way,
and also it helps bring some dynamics because we have a very long bridge, like a minute and a half, and it can be a bit like exhausting to listen to that whole
especially
build-up.
because it's constantly building up,
pretty
yeah, and
linear
being weirder and weirder.
Yeah, and so it helps like bring some much needed change.
Yeah.
in that. And it's also very very satisfying that this happens when the lyrics are referring to we and not I or you.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So it sounds like several
Multiple
voices.
people, yeah. And here's the solo.
Yeah.
So in perfect romance style, this is a minute-long solo.
I actually hate short solos. I think they're.
Oh,
like,
yeah?
I don't see the point. Like when I hate when bands have like a solo in each song, and it sounds like it's like 20 second or 30 second
like a
solos.
4-8 bar thing.
Yeah, it doesn't bring anything to the song. It just sounds like, oh, we need a solo now, and then.
Yeah.
So, and I love it when bands have like an album worth of songs, almost without a solo, but then in a couple of them, very cool extended solos that really tell a story. There always needs to be a very solid and compelling like backing rhythm called progression or stuff.
Yeah.
Because if it's just like a very standard backing and just a very very cool solo, but nothing much going on behind it, it's not interesting for me.
So maybe just hear the lead guitar a bit, because it is. I felt, I don't want to fight with you on that, but I did feel in the final mix it was kind of buried,
Yeah.
which was the point, right?
It's I think it's again much more of a complex because there was so much things I liked in the backing stuff, like the effects and everything. I didn't want to lose that. Like I didn't want it to be a shred fest without like harmonic richness behind it. And also I think again a lead guitar or solo is not meant to be like necessarily at the forefront of everything and the focus point, just like a vocal line would be. Some vocal lines are pretty buried as well in the album.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
wow,
Oh,
first
wow.
take.
Yow!
Yeah, and they're not necessarily pretty.
No,
Like all of those kind of fast things and complicated things.
Yeah.
They're quite scratchy.
Yeah.
They're quite squealy. Like they're not pretty. They're not
Yeah.
supposed to be perfect and
No.
tight and whatnot. It's not like a you know.
that's not what I'm good at either. Even if I wanted to do it, I think I couldn't. So
But the whole solo is written out.
yeah,
in
the whole
detail,
solo is written out quite methodically. But I'm not very good at writing solos, so I need to be inspired by what's going on behind it. So
Yeah.
that's also why I think it's very important to choose the right section for it, because here the rhythm guitar and the effects are very dramatic. The chord progression is very dramatic, and it makes it easier for me to write a good solo over it. It comes very naturally this way, but if there was to be a more neutral or ambivalent backing melody, it would be harder for me. I think.
Yeah, without like the tension release
Yeah.
that's in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was for part 1 of Spore. We had 6 minutes. Good.
Yeah.
We're on track.
Yeah, it's a long one. There's a lot of things to say. Longest one on the album
It
as
is.
well.
It is one of the longest one we ever did.
Yeah, and all of this, the tabs, the stems, and the demo itself, you can find on our Bandcamp page. So if you're interested in checking out how many animal noises there are in each song, how many fuck-ups we made in guitar, drum, and bass takes, how processed
There's a
the
lot.
vocals are, just by the pack, and also the shitty demo, instrumental demo, is pretty gold as well.
I really liked the demo. I remember specifically, I really loved all of the demos because the bass was so loud in all of them. And I just love hearing mixes with exaggeratedly loud bass, weirdly. So, with that in mind, let's see you soon for part 2 of Spore.
Stay tuned.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated, yeah. C'est important ça. Prêcher la bonne parole.